All right, welcome to 6.5. We're going to be comparing relative frequencies and probabilities from contingency tables. So first you need to know what those are, which we'll get to in just a moment. But here we're for a warm-up. Willie the Field Fielder hurt himself 2 games into the 2047 baseball season and only batted 6 times with 1 hit, or a batting average of 167. So obviously 1 hit divided by the 6 at-bats. The Scooter, Blaine, Scott the Scooter Blaine, played the entire season but was a second stringer. So he was up only 100 times and got 19 hits for a batting average of .19 or 190. So notice that he's at 190 and he's at 167. Continuing on, which obviously was better than Willie's average. In 2048 season, Willie was well and got 201 hits in 600 at-bats, and Scott still remained a second stringer and was only up 100 times again, but he got 35 hits. So what was Willie's batting average for 2048? So Willie's batting average right here, it would be 201 over the 600, and that'll give us an approximate. Scott's batting average was here, so 100 times, so 35. So 35 over 100, and that's exactly equal to 0.35. So again, better. Now what about the total? So we have to look here at the total seasons for both of them. So that means we're going to sum the total up. All right, so notice that both times here, Scott has a better average. He's got 0.35 here and a 0.19 there, or 190 there. As opposed to Willie, he's got a 167 and then a 335. Okay, so let's sum those up and see what we get. For Willie, he was a total of 202, because you add them up, over 606, because you take the 600 here and the 6 times there. And let's see what you get there. So this brings us to contingency tables, and we're going to be looking at subcategories and not just overall. So a contingency table is this. It's any tables that consider subgroups of frequency. Subgroups. So the key thing is subgroups. So it's not just the total number of people who died from XYZ, but it's about age groups or gender or whatever else. So for example here, here's a table regarding Titanic. And if you're cool, you'll say Titanic. If you're not, you say the Titanic. There you go. So just to get an overview here, these are the survival rates for first class, second class, third class, and crew. Not the survival rates, but the survival raw numbers. And these are who died, first class, second class, third class, and of the crew members. So we're also going to add to this, real quick, totals. So let's throw totals down here and see what the totals are. And the totals over on this end here. All right, so once we've checked the totals here, we can now begin answering these questions, and there's more on the next page as well. So out of all the people on Titanic, how many survived? So the total survival is just the top row there, so 711 is what we get there. So 711. So part B, find the percentage of passengers in first class who survived. So first class percentage of survivals would be this, would be the 203 divided by the total of first class passengers of the 325. Now find the percentage of passengers who survived who were in first class. So it's a different way of asking it. So let's see here. What we did was take the first class survivors divided by the total first class. Well, what percentage of passengers who survived were in first class? The total survival is 711, and of those first class is 203. So it's over a different total. 203 over the total number of those who survived there. We end up getting about 28.6%. So let's see. Out of all the people on Titanic, of all the people on Titanic, what percent died? So those who died was quite a large number. So 1490 over the 2201. Which would give me 67.7%. Find the percent of passengers in third class who died. So, first class passengers who passed on, 528 out of a total of 706, or 74.8%. Find the percent of passengers who died who were in third class. I just want to record and finish this up. Find the percentage of passengers who died who were in first class, 528 of those, over 14 total who died, 1490, so 35% of those who died were in third class. All right, so now let's take a gander at example 1 here. A 2001 study by the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center examined 626 patients to see if there was a connection between getting a tattoo and infection with Hep C, HPV. The results are in the table below. So, tattoo done in a commercial parlor, 17 people had Hep C, 35 people did not have that. Okay, tattoos done elsewhere, 8%. 8 people had tattoos, Hep C, and 53 did not. And this is the rates with people who had no tattoo, right? So if you want to consider this is kind of like your control. Acts as a baseline. Great. So that means if something is far off of the data here, especially in terms of percentages, we know that maybe something is going to be off over here then. All right, so what we're going to do is complete this, fill out the totals, and then we can start to analyze. And just as a reminder, all your totals, whether it's the vertical total here, 616, or the horizontal total, 616, they should still be 616 on both of those. So as we see, there were 616, but what's the mistake here? Clearly there's a mistake, so I'm just going to change that up here to 616. All right, so now let's examine some of the questions. According to this data, is someone with a tattoo done in a commercial parlor more or less likely to have a Hep C than someone with a tattoo done somewhere else? So we're looking at these two columns right here. So likely or not. So has would be the 17 over the total 52. So has 17 over 52. So those who have Hep C at a commercial parlor, it's 32.7. And next has, and that's at an other. And it doesn't necessarily say that this is where you get it, but it could be where you've gotten it. So now in this case, it's going to be 8 over 61. So that one there is 13.1% tattoos done elsewhere. And notice that the numbers are actually relatively 52 and 61. So if these are people with their friends or, I don't know, some whatever non-commercial entity would be it. All right, next. What can be concluded about the safety of commercial parlors? So that seems to imply from the question that maybe these guys did not have Hep C to begin with. Okay, so that's what the question's seeming to imply. Although all we know right now is we don't know when the Hep C thing was taken, before or after, or just concurrently. So what can be concluded about the safety of the tattoo parlors? Well, notice that this is like 2.5 times more likely, almost 3 times as much, because that 3 times this is 39. So what we can conclude is maybe the commercial is more dangerous. The reason I say maybe is because we don't know if one is causing the other, okay? But, I mean, obviously there is a connection. We don't know which one came first. So as we're looking at the results here of a survey many, many moons ago of 5th grade class, the 23% is 23% of boys prefer Lemony Snicket, or probably a series of unfortunate events. So when we look at the next question, which is larger, the number of boys who prefer Animorphs or the number of girls who prefer Lemony Snicket? Well, we can say for the girls who prefer Lemony Snicket, that would be 28%. And for the number of boys who prefer Animorphs is 15. And you might say, oh, of course, the 28's larger, but that's not a number in terms of a raw number. That's a percentage. So we can't say anything about the number, no conclusion. But we can say that the percentages are greater for the Lemony Snicket, the girls who prefer Lemony Snicket. Now let's look at example 3. Some data regarding the habits of inline skaters and protective gear were gathered from 2,145 skaters. So here we have beginners who wore no gear, all the way down to the advanced who wore 2 to 4 pieces of gear. So if you extend this out, you can get the totals of all the beginners. There were 709. Of all the people who did not wear gear, there were 874, etc. So you can pause the video and you can check your answers here.